Hey there, friend. I'm genuinely happy you've taken a moment to watch this. And if you decide to hit subscribe, know that I'll appreciate it even more. Let's get into the story. When Amanda Davenport casually messaged me to say she'd be initiating divorce proceedings the following week, I didn't flinch. Not because it didn't hurt, it did. But by then, I'd already disconnected in all the ways that mattered. Emotionally, mentally, and logistically, I had already moved on. At that point, I was no longer tethered to her in any meaningful way, emotionally detached, financially separated, and legally fortified. Her betrayal had been a slow, creeping thing, and for nearly a year I'd been silently preparing for the inevitable collapse. I was sitting in my home office when her text popped up. "Just a heads up, I'm filing next week. My lawyer will reach out." 7 years of marriage wiped away in a single sentence. My hands clenched around the keyboard, but my mind stayed calm. I had already spoken to my attorney, Donna, 3 days before. The prenuptial agreement Amanda had once insisted on, convinced it would safeguard her trust fund, had become my shield. More than that, it was my counterattack. Back then, Amanda had the higher income. She came from generational wealth, beachfront homes, couture closets, and a family that expected her to marry into even greater privilege. Then there was me, a startup hopeful and software developer with more ambition than cash. My hustle had intrigued her, but things changed when my business took off and the money started pouring in. Suddenly, I was the high earner. Her demeanor shifted. Gradually at first, fewer moments of intimacy, more networking events and solo spiritual retreats. I tried to stay trusting, but her actions started ringing false. The signs were subtle but damning. Strange colognes on her clothing, sketchy ATM activity, high-end wellness charges, and once a crumpled receipt for a luxury men's watch tossed deep in the garbage. I never confronted her. I called Donna instead. We combed through the prenup, tracked the source of every dollar, and documented the formation of my company, long before our wedding date. That's when Donna asked, "Are you looking to fight this or win it?" I didn't hesitate. I want to win. By the next day, we were in motion. I relocated my premarital investments into a secure trust, converted legacy stocks into a private portfolio under my name, and locked down all financial ties to the business. New passwords, revoked permissions, everything updated, except her vehicle and personal effects, just as the prenup required. So when Amanda sent her message, I wasn't just prepared, I was already several steps ahead. I responded, "No need to have your lawyer contact me. Mine will be serving you tomorrow." That's when the storm hit. Her voicemails came in fast, screaming, profanity-laced, filled with disbelief and rage. But what struck me wasn't her anger. It was her shock. She'd assumed she still held the knife, not realizing I'd already disarmed her and sealed every exit. Her new attorney, Timothy Vance, came out swinging. His email was packed with accusations, hidden assets, manipulation, financial control, and a demand for alimony. It was dramatic and, frankly, laughable. Donna skimmed the message and gave a wry smile. "They're unraveling," she said. "Let them." But Amanda wasn't finished. The next day, she stormed into my house, using a key I'd forgotten to disable. My heart pounded, not from fear, but fury. She stood in the living room, furious. "I gave you the best years of my life," she shouted, "and now I get nothing?" "You checked out months ago," I said calmly. "I just didn't spell it out." That silenced her. Something flickered in her eyes. She came looking for a fight, expecting chaos and desperation. Instead, she met quiet calculation. I reminded her she was the one who had insisted on the prenup and that she had legal counsel at the time. "No one forced your hand, Amanda," I told her. "You just assumed you'd never need to worry about it." It wasn't my tone that stung. It was the truth. Her fury faltered and panic crept in. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at a picture from happier times. Us in Cabo, laughing over dinner. She wore a dress she'd bought with a credit card we could barely pay off. I used to love that laugh. Now it looked smug, frozen in time. I reviewed the documentation I'd quietly collected. Her spending patterns pointed to a recurring name, J. Talbot. I had originally pegged him as some wellness guru. Then I found the email connected to a payment, and the truth hit. Jason Talbot, her college flame, the same guy who once mocked me at a wedding reception thinking I couldn't hear him. Turns out, he never really left the picture. I finally understood why her face lit up when certain texts came through. I forwarded the relevant messages and receipts to Donna. Her response was brief. Perfect. The next day, another email from Vance landed. They were now attacking the prenup itself, calling it grossly unfair, and arguing Amanda had a right to maintain her customary lifestyle. Donna's response was swift and surgical. Your client's lifestyle was sustained through assets explicitly excluded from community property. Her assumptions are based on misrepresentation, not entitlement. Refer to Clause 9, subsection B. Still, that wasn't the climax. That came on Friday. A bank rep called me directly. Amanda had attempted to withdraw $7,200 from our joint account, an account requiring dual consent. She claimed it was for pressing legal costs. The teller flagged the transaction. A scene followed. Yelling, accusations. I need this money. He's ruining my life. No, Amanda. I was reclaiming mine. That evening, Donna filed for an emergency freeze on our shared funds, citing erratic and irresponsible behavior. The court approved it overnight. Later that night, Amanda messaged me again. You're doing this to punish me. You want me to suffer. I didn't reply. Instead, I logged into my investment dashboard. Portfolio up 3.8% for the week. Sometimes justice doesn't shout. It shows up quietly in decimal points and green arrows. But make no mistake, this wasn't easy. I'm not made of stone. I loved her once. I remember the nights on the floor of our first apartment, eating grilled cheese and laughing through broken dreams. I remember the pride in her eyes the day I launched my first app. I remember it all. She cried that day. Something had shifted. Maybe it was something in me. Maybe it was her. Or maybe it was that moment she curled up beside me in bed, tapping away at her phone, sending late-night messages to another man. The next morning she called. I didn't answer. Let it ring into voicemail. Her voice trembled as it played. Brian, can we talk? Please. I know I messed up. I panicked. I didn't mean for the message to sound like that. That day her eyes brimmed with tears. Something had changed. Maybe within her, or maybe it was something in me. Perhaps it was that instant she lay beside me, scrolling through her phone, quietly messaging someone else in the dark. The next morning, her name flashed on my screen. I let it ring, unmoved, until it went to voicemail. Her voice, small and shaking, played through the speaker. Brian, can we talk? Please. I know I messed up. I didn't mean for it to come across that way. I panicked. But by then, the damage was done. Her crying wasn't about guilt. It was the realization that she'd made a bet she couldn't win, and she'd gone all in. When Monday rolled around, her tone changed. No more begging, just venom. One voicemail came through, laced with rage. You're a monster. You'll regret this. I made you. That part stayed with me. I made you. The irony cut deep. It was already too late. Her tears weren't from regret. They were from the cold realization that she'd wagered everything and lost. By Monday, her messages had curdled into bitterness. The apologies faded. Anger took their place. One voice note hissed through my phone. You're a monster! You'll regret this! I made you who you are! That line lodged itself in my mind. I made you. The irony burned. When she first entered my life, I was grinding through the early days of a startup. My apartment was barely livable, the furniture was secondhand, and my laptop threatened to combust with every hour of work. Amanda was a different world. She lived in a pristine condo downtown, backed by family wealth and surrounded by elegance. She'd laugh about my long hours, mocking the dream I chased like it was some naive hobby. But once things started going well, suddenly she wanted a piece of it. But wanting something doesn't entitle you to it, and feeling deserving doesn't nullify a prenup. At the time Amanda and I met, I was bootstrapping a business from a cramped one-bedroom apartment. The place was pieced together with used furniture, and my laptop overheated daily. Amanda, meanwhile, came from a polished life, downtown condo, inherited money, days filled with curated ease. She once joked to her friends about my absurd work hours, saying I was chasing a pipe dream. But when that dream became reality, she decided she deserved her cut. Wanting isn't owning, and believing you're owed something doesn't erase a legally binding prenup. Her attorney, Timothy Vance, soon adjusted his strategy. Gone were the threats. He now used phrases like mutual understanding and respectful resolution. My lawyer, Ms. Donna, laughed out loud when she read his new language. "He knows he's outmatched," she said. "Now he's just trying to avoid a courtroom loss." Soon enough, her lawyer, Timothy Vance, changed his tune. His aggressive stance mellowed, replaced by careful talk of amicable resolutions and dignified conclusions. Ms. Donna, my attorney, chuckled as she scanned his letter. "He knows he's going to lose," she said. "He just wants to save face." As the legal mess played out, I noticed a strange calm settling over me. I began sleeping soundly. I cooked real meals. I went on long walks and reconnected with people I hadn't spoken to in years. Amanda had been a constant fog I'd grown used to, a quiet pull that drained my days. She wasn't outright cruel, just detached, vaguely condescending. Physically there, but emotionally elsewhere. I once brought up counseling. Her reply, "Why? So you can win more arguments?" While all of this unfolded, I started feeling lighter. I could sleep through the night. I cooked for myself again. Took long walks. Caught up with friends I hadn't seen in ages. Amanda had been like a mist I hadn't realized was suffocating me until it lifted. She was never overtly harsh, just consistently distant, slightly demeaning, disengaged. Once I suggested therapy. Her response? "What for? So you can learn how to argue better?" With time, I began seeing it more clearly, how much bitterness hid behind her practiced smile. But the real betrayal arrived in digital form. Hotel confirmations, receipts, jewelry exchanged with Jason Talbot, and there was more. Hidden bank activity, rerouted funds. I uncovered payments to a PayPal account created under a fake name. Ms. Donna had us document every detail. Not for court, just for protection. Eventually, the truth unspooled itself. There were signs I had ignored, emails, transactions, jewelry gifted to Jason Talbot. Then came more troubling details, secret accounts, redirected money. I followed the trail to a PayPal account under a false identity. Ms. Donna ensured we logged it all, not to press charges, but to safeguard my future. Then came Wednesday. Amanda made her final dramatic move. She waited outside my office like she was starring in a tragedy, oversized sunglasses, a scarf clutched around her neck, trying to make the moment feel cinematic. She looked wrecked, not in a graceful way. In the way people do when their control slips, and money can't mask it anymore. Then on Wednesday, Amanda made her last theatrical appearance. She stood outside my building, sunglasses too big, designer scarf wrapped tight like she was posing for some emotional movie scene. She looked undone, not in a delicate way, but in the uncomposed, expensive kind of unraveling that wealth can't conceal. "Brian," she said when I let her inside, "please, just talk to me." I stayed at my desk and gestured for her to sit. She lowered herself into the chair like a child caught cheating on a test. "I just need something," she whispered. "Anything. You don't know what this has been like for me." I finally met her eyes. And you don't know what it felt like watching the woman I loved become someone I didn't recognize. Brian, she said softly when I opened the door, please, just talk with me. I stayed seated, motioned for her to take the chair across from me. She sat, folded into herself, small and lost. I just need something, she murmured. Anything. You have no idea how hard this has been for me. I looked her in the eye. And you don't know what it was like to watch the person I love turn into a stranger? She looked down. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. She looked down, voice low. I didn't want to hurt you. You did, I replied evenly. Then she made an offer. What if I walk away from spousal support? There was never any support to begin with, I reminded her. The prenup took care of that. You just hoped I'd forget. She went silent. Her eyes glazed over. Then, almost to herself, she said, Jason said I was too dramatic, that I was never worth the trouble. He wasn't serious. Her voice cracked. I was so stupid. And for the first time, I saw it wasn't love for me that hurt her. It was the wreckage of a plan that fell apart. She made a final offer. What if I give up the spousal support claim? There never was one, I told her plainly. The prenup handled that. You just hoped I'd ignore it. Silence filled the room. Her gaze turned glassy. Then she admitted it, quietly. Jason laughed at me, said I was too much. He never really cared. Her voice broke. I was foolish. That was the first honest thing she'd said. Not out of remorse, but because she'd watched her scheme crumble. She traded a 7-year marriage for a fantasy, and when reality showed up, the fantasy vanished. I didn't gloat. I just said, I hope you find peace. She asked for a small amount of money. Just enough so it doesn't feel like I lost everything, she said. I answered calmly. The prenup is your settlement. She gave up a 7-year marriage for an illusion, and when the dream collapsed, so did her confidence. I didn't revel in it. I simply said, I hope you find peace. She asked for a token amount, just so it doesn't feel like I've lost everything. I told her quietly, the prenup is the settlement. She stood slowly, legs unsteady, as though the world no longer moved the way she expected. She opened her mouth to say more, maybe one last plea, but stopped. Whatever dignity remained carried her out the door. That was the last time I saw her. She stood up, shaky on her feet, like gravity had changed. Her lips parted as if to make one final appeal, but she held back. Pride, or what was left of it, pulled her away. That was the final time I saw Amanda. But not the last I heard from her. The voicemails kept coming. Some sounded soft, broken. I miss you. Please call. Others were filled with venom. You'll regret this, Brian. And then came one that felt like it came from a ghost. You don't know what it's like to lose everything at once. But I did. I'd lost her long before she ever sent that text. Her voice didn't disappear. The messages continued. Some were hushed and desperate. I miss you. Please talk to me. Others were sharp with spite. You'll regret this, Brian. You really will. But one felt empty, like it came from a hollowed-out version of her. You don't know what it feels like to lose everything. But I did. She was already gone long before that message ever left her phone. Miss Donna forwarded the final paperwork. No changes, no new demands. Just a signature and a tired sigh from Vance. Amanda left with her car, her closet full of designer clothes, and $3,172 from a joint account. Nothing more. No claim on my company. No cut of future earnings. No alimony. Just closure. Eventually, Ms. Donna sent over the finalized agreement from Amanda's side. No edits, no objections. Just a signature and a resigned sigh from her lawyer. Amanda walked away with her car, her luxury wardrobe, and just under $4,000. Everything else? Untouched. No stake in my company, no claim to future revenue, no ongoing support, just the end. That Friday, I sat outside with a cold beer, my phone on silent, watching the sunset like it always had, as though nothing had ever gone off course. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting for something to fall apart. That Friday evening, I sat on the patio, beer in hand, phone face down, watching the sun drop behind the trees, uninterrupted, as if life had never faltered. For once, I wasn't bracing for impact. Work took off. My portfolio, adjusted just before the divorce, was already up 5%. My team, mostly unaware of the details, started noticing something different. "You doing okay, boss?" one asked. I smiled. Better than okay. My company flourished. The investments I'd restructured pre-divorce were already yielding results. My team, who only knew bits of what had happened, noticed a shift. "You all right, boss?" one asked. I smiled. More than all right. Weeks later, word came through a mutual acquaintance. Someone now fully in my corner. Amanda had moved in with her sister. The image of independence had crumbled. Her family wealth, frozen. Her parents had uncovered the truth, the cheating, the games. Old-fashioned, value-driven, they cut her off. Weeks later, a shared contact, now clearly loyal to me, shared an update. Amanda was living with her sister. The self-reliant persona didn't hold. Her family funds? Locked. Her parents, traditional and strict, had learned the truth, the infidelity, the manipulation. They pulled everything. She had misunderstood more than just the prenup. She had misunderstood life. One last message arrived. "Brian, I'm behind on rent. My sister's kicking me out. I'm scared. I made a mistake. I have no one." I stared at that text, not debating a reply, but searching for a feeling. There was none. Not hate, not triumph, just release. She hadn't just misread the prenup, she'd misread everything. Her final message came quietly. "Brian, I'm behind on rent. My sister wants me out. I'm scared. I was wrong. I have no one else." I looked at the screen for a long while, not because I thought of responding, but to confirm I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, only release. I never replied. Later, Ms. Donna said, "Silence was your smartest move. Let her face what she created." She was right. That's how peace begins. Amanda wasn't malicious, just careless, entitled, unfaithful. She took a gamble on someone who loved her and thought she'd walk away richer. She didn't realize she'd leave with less than she came with. I never wrote back. Ms. Donna later told me, "Silence was the wisest response. Let the consequences do the talking." She was right. That's how peace starts. Amanda wasn't a villain, just spoiled, impulsive, unfaithful. She gambled on someone who truly cared, thinking she could exit with more than she entered. But in the end, she walked away with less than nothing. She taught me one enduring truth. Love stripped of loyalty is just a sentimental transaction, dressed up to feel meaningful. And the most effective revenge? It doesn't come with shouting matches or public scenes. Sometimes it's simply cutting off access, completely, cleanly. You'd be amazed at how calming real freedom feels. No more heart-jolting phone vibrations. No more creeping footsteps at midnight while I pretended not to hear her breaking yet another promise about when she'd be home. No more bracing for the next betrayal. Just quiet, honest, straightforward. It's been 5 months since Amanda sent that unforgettable message. "I'm filing for divorce next week." But what she failed to realize was that her words didn't kick off a new story. They bounced off a door I had already sealed shut, bolted it. Left it behind. I was ready, far more than she ever suspected. So when the fantasy she abandoned us for collapsed, when the guy she gambled everything on disappeared, when the money dried up and her lawyer dropped her, she lost more than just a court case. She lost the illusion of control she'd clung to like it was keeping her afloat. Last I heard, she's renting a small one-bedroom apartment near her sister somewhere in New Jersey. That luxury car I once surprised her with now sits in a shared parking lot surrounded by aging compacts and rusty hatchbacks. Her prized designer handbags, forgotten on dusty shelves, the weekly massages and facials, long gone. Even the gym membership got the axe. The lifestyle she worked so hard to showcase, it's now an inside joke between me and Miss Donna. After our sessions, she'll grin and ask, "So, got any new lifestyle goals we need to plan for today?" And I always smile and say, "Just peace. That's all I'm after these days." It was never truly about the money. It was about reclaiming all the time and energy I wasted trying to salvage something that had already rotted from the inside out. When I think back on that final year, it feels like watching a movie play in reverse. All those so-called girls' trips that were anything but. The hushed phone calls she'd take in the bathroom, door locked behind her. The way her face would go blank, or worse, annoyed, whenever I shared a new business idea. For a long time, I thought the problem was me. Maybe I was just being paranoid or insecure. But in reality, I was simply recognizing what was always there. One of her last texts read, "You really did win. Happy now?" And the answer, yes. But not in a fireworks and confetti way, not in a jumping on the bed with champagne way, just in a deeply calm, deeply real way. I can sit at my kitchen table and hear the gentle whir of the fridge, the birds outside my open window, and the steady rhythm of my own thoughts. I go on walks now, not to keep pace with anyone, but simply to move, to breathe. I've reconnected with old friends, got back into woodworking, a passion I'd shelved because Amanda used to mock it as a pointless hobby. I even started mentoring kids at a local coding boot camp, showing them how to build apps from the ground up. I've been on a few dates too, nothing serious yet. Just learning to share space with someone again, without holding my breath the whole time. As for Amanda, I don't hate her, but I don't feel anything else either. And that, to me, is the most satisfying kind of closure. No bitterness, no scorekeeping, just stillness. She no longer holds any piece of my heart, my time, or even my frustration. She's left with exactly what she chose. Nothing more, nothing less. And the prenup, the one she once waved around like a trophy of her cleverness, it turned out to be my saving grace, the boundary that kept her chaos from swallowing me whole. It protected far more than just my bank account or my business. It protected me. So if you're wondering what I gained in the end, it's this. Without loyalty, love is meaningless. That's the truth. That's where our story ends. Thanks for being here. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this resonated, check out the other videos on the channel. Until next time, be well, friend.